Hi, I'm Jason Webb. Welcome to Your Horse Live, I suppose you could say. It's one of my favourite events, really, and it's a shame it can't be held in person, but here we are, we're doing the best we can. It is November, and usually I'm up at Your Horse Live, but this year I can't be, and I've decided to go the old Movember look. So if you're wondering, thinking, what's he sporting with the facial hair? That's what it is. I'm trying to support the charity Movember and raise awareness for men's health. So there we are. I've been asked some questions from Your Horse Live, which I'm hoping to be able to answer for you guys. So I've got Penny here. She's going to read them out, and I'll see what I can do.
Cool. Okay, the first one is from Carol Franks in Glasgow. How did you get into horsemanship?
How did I get into horsemanship? Well, I got into horses as a kid. I grew up on a farm in rural Australia, and we had sheep and cattle, and we were in the mountains, so we had to muster our sheep and cattle with horses. So that's where it all started, and that's where my love of horses came about. And then I played a sport called polo cross. And it was trying to go up through the levels in that sport that I started to realise I need to understand horses better to sort of maximise my potential and their potential, and also build this rapport with them to sort of get them to want to help me out and want to work and that sort of thing. So that's where it really stems from.
Cool. And linked to that, Simon Dorey in Newark, do you compete, or did you, and if so, what discipline?
Oh, well, I've sort of started on that answer. So I compete with polo cross. For those of you that don't know, it's a cross between polo and lacrosse. So we have a little stick and a softball that we go around. And I've been playing since I was about 8 years old, and I now represent the UK. I've been captain of the UK team a couple of times. We played at the World Cup in Australia in April 2019. We did pretty well. We were hoping for a fourth. We ended up fifth, but it was a really competitive competition. So it was a good result all around and a great thing. So yeah, I've competed at the top level in my discipline. But also, it's been interesting, working with horses. I'm starting to dabble in other disciplines as well. And just recently, I've started doing a little bit of dressage. So, you're never too old to stop learning. And
sort of linked to that, the horses that you get sent for training, they're from all disciplines. So you do have to understand that. But with the young horses, they need a foundation.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I suppose my sport, as much as my job, is starting horses. For some people, it's quite a scary thing, starting horses, because I get all sorts, and I'm known for doing some of the trickier ones. But I have this, I don't know, I just like it. I like the sort of, I don't know whether you say rush, or that sort of adrenaline and that sort of having to get things right and that sort of thing as to progress on. And there's a sense of achievement, which doesn't take years. So at the end of 6 weeks, I've taken a horse that knows absolutely nothing, and now they're a nice riding horse and going to go on to have a great life. That's the dream, and I'm able to do that a lot. So I get that sense of job satisfaction, I suppose. So yeah.
Cool. Okay, going on to some more specific advice. Kimberly Morton in the East Riding of Yorkshire. I have a horse who will load on the box at home, but after a show can take up to 4 hours to load. Any advice on how to resolve this?
Kimberly, that sounds very, very frustrating. Yeah, I don't know, it's a funny one, because a lot of people think, well, he's loaded to go away. Why wouldn't my horse load to come home, where he's got a nice cozy stables and food and that sort of thing? But I talk about this a lot, and I talk about horses having, say, a bank of goodwill. So the start of your day, or the start of a horse's working day, starts from the moment you clip the head collar on. and you lead them out and you feed them and or tie them up and then say, right, we're going to get saddled and we're going to go and do a job. If you have a horse that it's not completely has your respect, or you have their respect rather, then what tends to happen is as you go through the day and ask your horse to do something and they're a little bit, then you start to eat into that bank of goodwill. So on a day where you're going out, you load your horse to go away. Well, that uses up, some currency. And then you get to your show and the horse is a little bit anxious because they're in a different environment. So that uses up more currency. Then you go for a ride or compete or whatever it is, uses up more currency. And by the time you come to load again, your horse is going, well, I've done all this for you and now you expect me to do this again? So they're not thinking about the end game. They're just thinking about having to do another thing for you. And they haven't got a big enough bank balance. Now you improve that bank balance by having more respect and having tools to show your horse, listen, it's going to be fine. And, and to get them to follow along. It's quite a detailed answer to actually explain how to get your horse loaded when they decide not to. But the answer is respect. And respect is all about movement. So you need to have processes to get your horse to move forward should they say, I don't want to. Left and right is really important, and also backwards. So having that range of movement with your horses on the ground is really, really important. And to get that, for example, I use a whip to tap my horse forward. So I'll give a cue with the head collar, just a light pressure on the head collar, and then I'll tap the side of my horse. As soon as I see a forward step, I release. And after a while, my horse starts to see the process or see the pattern, and they start to follow my cues, and I can sort of take them wherever I want to take them, through the movement, through respect and understanding. So it's not as easy as that, but that's the general principle. Hope that helps.
Cool. And there are two questions that sort of are similar. Emma Widowson from Tyne and Wear. My horse gets really stressed in the stable. I've tried a mirror, but she just ignored it. She box walks, gets really upset even though she can see other horses. 24/7 turnout is not an option. She's out all summer but needs to come in at night at winter. Any ideas on what to try would be really appreciated. And Steve Gunn in Essex, how do you make a horse calm on a trailer? He thrashes around loads, making the trailer feel very unstable.
So these two problems, it's right to ask these in the same question, because they fundamentally have similarities. I'm not saying it's exactly the same, but there are fundamental similarities, and there's similar ways to solve these problems. So my first question is always in this situation is, what is driving these horses' behaviour? There's two things really. Either my horse doesn't want to be where they are, which is obvious. But the next question is, where do they want to be? So and that would be the question I would focus on. Where does my horse want to be? And then I would use some reverse psychology. So you need the skills to be able to load your horse or put your horse into the stable, number one. And then I toy with the idea of giving them the option to come off. So we get them to load onto a box, and I might start with an open box, or trailer rather, and same for your stable. So I'd put them in the stable or the trailer, and I'd give them the option to leave if they want to. And now when that horse leaves, I can make it slightly less desirable to be out there. I might give them a little pull, I might lunge a couple of circles, I might do something like that. And what works best for each individual horse varies slightly. But it's just saying, listen, I can see your desire to be outside, but I would say what you think, your perception of what it would be like outside or with your friend. The herding instinct kicks in a lot with this as well. And again, it's trying to change that desire. So, you know, you make a little bit of work out there or make it different and then pop them back into the stable and say, now where would you like to go? What are you thinking? And eventually your horse will go to walk out and think, you know, I think I prefer to stay in the trailer or on the box. So that's my, again, there's other processes that can sort of really help this, but that would be where I would start with those two problems, is looking at that question and reversing that desire.
And just on the subject of a trailer, can horses travel better on a box or a trailer? You know, can they be upset when you go from one to the other? Yeah, horses can be funny, and I'll tell you the thing that is really important when you're traveling. Some horses, particularly the slightly more anxious horses, they do tend to be more anxious, but it's the horses that tend to sort of freeze a little bit or stop moving. And soon when you go onto a box, if they're by a wall and a horse can't spread their back legs in particular, then they feel that restriction on their back leg and they panic. And that's where you get, you know, that sort of real anxiety. And some horses push away from the wall and will even go down to the ground, or, you know, try and jump clear and try and make space for themselves. So, you know, putting those horses that are a bit anxious on a trailer next to a wall can exacerbate the problem. And likewise on a box, if you put them at the front of the box or the back, some horses will also get a bit anxious. And sometimes horses prefer one side than the other, so you have to tinker with that. But that restriction from a wall is something that can cause anxiety when you're travelling. Okay, Tanya Bisp from Somerset. My 10-year-old Vanna cob can be quite bargy and would go through you if the herd leader was coming. What exercises could I use to stop this cobs are renowned for it attitude, please?
There's a few really simple exercises. I say that they're simple in theory, but when you've got a horse that's pushing through you, it's not necessarily always that simple. So there's a few personal space exercises that I like to use, which are really simple and great as a starting point. Whether I can explain them well enough on a piece to camera, I'll give it a go. But one of the first exercises I like to try with horses like that is a following exercise. So, and this following exercise is about getting your horse to sort of move around you. So what I'll do is I'll carry a pole on my arms. I don't have anything here at the moment, but I'll carry a pole in the crook of my elbow there, like a jump pole. So it's a good, maybe 8 foot long type thing. I don't know how long, or a bit of downpipe is probably better if you've got some light downpipe. And I'll walk along like that, and I'll walk 90-degree turns. So I'll walk forward, my horse will be following in behind me, and I'll stop and turn. As I turn towards the right end of the pole will go towards my horse, and if they move around me, then I can walk on in my new direction. If they don't move around me and they try to walk through me, I can either bump them. If they put their nose, I'll bump them under the chin, or I'll bump them on the hip to say, you have to move around me, not through me or cut the corner. The horses that start to take over with your personal space will always anticipate where you're going, and then they end up in front of you, and so you end up getting led by them. So that following exercise is a great one. And I think on that note, it's important to understand that in these instances, I saw another question there about do I ever lose my calm? But we'll get to that in a second. It's important to understand sometimes you get a little bit untidy. You know, sometimes you'll see me, I'll be bumping because horses won't move, or they come over and they're not worried about you. So you have to use a bumping type motion to get them to move away from you. So it can look a bit untidy in the beginning, and it's important to give yourself the freedom to be a bit agricultural at the beginning. You must communicate properly, so there should always be an ask, and then but be prepared to tell, be prepared to get untidy and get your horse to move. And the reason that's so important is people value being nice and tidy and looking good over consistency. And that is just the wrong way around. I value consistency more than looking a bit ugly from time to time, because I know with consistency that in the end I'll become more tidy and it's more likely to stay that way. My horse is more likely to be calmer because they understand the world better. When I'm asked to do this, I don't do it sometimes, I do it all the time, and it's fine. And that is a really important thing to understand. There's lots of other exercises as well, but I'm going to leave you with that one and see how you go.
And Tanya, if you wanted, you can email me info@yourhorsemanship.com, and I can pop you a link to a personal space video, because it is quite difficult to explain.
For those of you that don't know, I don't know whether I'm allowed to say this, but I do have an online sort of education resource called Your Horsemanship, and that has all these videos on there and gives you lots of information and ideas on how to deal with these sort of problems.
Cool. Okay, so a couple more. Glynis Starr from Hastings, what advice would you give to me? I need to get my confidence back around horses. How do you keep confident?
For me, so I deal with some really tricky horses sometimes, and I've always got young horses that you have absolutely no idea what's going to happen. So you might think that must be terrifying sometimes, but I don't seem to get that. I get a sort of sense of readiness, and the reason I get that sense of readiness is because I understand what I need to do, and I really understand what I'm looking at, and you start to notice cues from your horse, details, the way your horse is looking, the ears and that sort of thing. So I think for confidence from me, it's that understanding horse behaviour and knowing that, for instance, I know sometimes horses will get worse before they get better. They go through their cycle of learning, which is I don't know, you get resistances. Then they start to know and they start to go, oh, this is all right, I've sort of got this. And they think, yeah, but why are we still doing it? And then you get that, I don't want to. And you get more resistance, and then you get an escalation. And at this point here, a lot of people say, I must be doing it wrong, or the horse is mad or whatever. But actually, they're just gone through their flight options and just give it one more try before they come into that acceptance phase of learning. And that's where we all strive to get to. So I know that. So when a horse bucks with me before I get on it, in the saddle or something like that, it doesn't worry me, because I know that is part of the process. It's tried that, and I can now see that horse is settled, is overcome that sort of idea. It sort of thinks, well, I've tried it. It's not I don't have to do that. I can just do this. And that's the progress I'm looking for. So I think the answer for you is for us to understand, these things like I've just explained, and also think about processes, because your mind starts to, under pressure, starts to run away with things that you can't really control at that point in time. So it's just learn a process and get good at going through that. And make it really simple to start with, and you'll find your confidence will build with this sort of becoming more competent with the process that you're learning, because it will feel strange to start with. So that for me is a clear and really great route to improving your confidence.
And you always say, don't you, go out with a purpose. So even if you're handling or riding your horse, decide what you sort of want to achieve and really focus on that purpose.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be much either. Yeah, I you know, that was instilled into me. Well, you can see my dad here, my 10-year-old dad there. But he always said, well, what are you doing? And I said, well, I was going for a ride. Well, where? I said, well, I don't know. Well, so go and get those sheep for me, or go and you know, check that. And, you know, he'd always make sure we had something to do, because he knew that when you're going to do something, you actually ride your horse. So even if you pick your head up and look at a point and just ride to that point, you know, breaking that process of going down to do something into something as simple as, oh, I'm going to ride to that tree and I'm going to keep my horse as straight as I can. You'll find that sort of riding, almost your subconscious and your body will take over, which will operate 10 times faster, and that is, or up to 10 times faster. And that's a fact, that's a psychological fact. If you allow feel and your body to take over and just do it without consciously thinking of it, you'll be up to 10 times quicker, and therefore your horse feels more secure with you as you ride forward. So it's a massive thing for me, riding with purpose.
Cool. Okay, last one is from Claire Cott in Kent. You always look so calm. Do you ever lose your temper?
Is that Claire, was it?
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Claire. It's good that I look like that. Sometimes I don't always think that I am, but yeah, I suppose it comes back to the question that we got before is, I suppose I look really calm, and I am calm. I don't feel angry or anything like that when I'm around horses, because I'm so focused on, and you can ask Penny or my kids or anything, when I'm doing something, I have this ability to just zone in on something. It could be watching telly or anything like that, and I'm just there, and I can sort of forget about everything else. And the reason is I'm looking for my horse to move in a certain way or do a certain thing, and so therefore that's where my concentration is, and I know I have this confidence because I've done it for so long and I know what I'm looking for, that it just comes across as calmness. And I suppose that's the culmination of experience and going through processes over the course of my career. But I do want to stress that, you know, you watch social media and all this sort of thing and everything looks perfect. Well, I'm here to tell you it's not. And I'm not that perfect person that, you know, you might have seen me working and that sort of thing and think, oh, he's always so calm. I don't get angry, but I do get untidy. If a horse isn't going forward, I'll throw the reins at them and I'll flap until they get going. Or, you know, if a horse is trying to run over me, then I will bump them with my head collar. Say, you know, you need to back off. And that doesn't look particularly nice and it doesn't look particularly calm, but I'm not angry. I'm just, you know, I'm prepared to assert myself. And then instantly my horse gives me the movement. And this is a difference between, I think, people that get angry and the people that, you know, are calm, although they can be assertive at times, is what are you actually looking for? So I might say, right, back off, and the horse puts its head in the air and keeps charging towards me on the ground, and I keep going. And then eventually I see that step, and instantly, it's quiet. I can breathe, my horse can breathe, and we're back in that place. And somebody who gets angry, they'll feel a sense of injustice, like the horse is doing it on purpose, and then they're not looking for that. They're not interested in the timing and the movement. They're just, you know, doing it for the wrong reasons, shall we say. So I think that's something to think about. So yeah, there we go.
Cool. All right, I think that's time's up.
All right. Well, sorry we can't see you in person this year. As I always say, Your Horse Live is one of my favourite events. It's great fun, lots of great people up there, both in the arena and outside the arena. And hopefully next year it cracks on. In the meantime, guys, Movember. Look me up on the Movember website if you want to drop a few quid for charity. That'll be great. All right. Take care, guys. See you later.
Bye.